What a Thursday for the Golden State Warriors. First, they trade away their draft pick. It ends up coming back to them. They select a center. That's right, a center. In fact, a 7-footer out of Boston College in Quinton Post. They also signed some depth at the guard position and bringing in Lindy Waters out of Oklahoma City. And also, we'll touch on a two-way player out of Virginia reportedly coming to the Warriors. Lots of action to get to on day 2 of the NBA draft, and we get into it right now on Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. I'm your host, Kylan Mills, a play-by-play broadcaster and host with a number of outlets. Alongside me today is Charlie Walter, former KPIX sports anchor and 95.7 The Game host. Chuck, great to see you. Real quickly, on today's show, a lot to get to as it was a very busy day in Golden State land. The Warriors first, reportedly, trade away the 52nd overall pick in this 2024 draft to Oklahoma City in exchange for Lindy Waters, a guard who's been trying to crack the rotation, unable to. They end up getting the pick back, buy their way back into that pick at least, keep Waters, and then select a center, a 7-footer, which is music to my ears. Also, a player out of Virginia, Reese Beekman, reportedly signed in a two-way contract. So a lot to get to. My head is spinning, Chuck. This was not the way I expected today to go. What's your initial reaction? You're muted. Chuck, you're muted.
I'm back. My initial reaction, when the heck did Reese Beekman get thrown into the mix? Like the entire day I heard about all the trades and was doing all the research about Quinton Post and Lindy Waters. And then in the last, couple hours, all of a sudden I'm hearing about Beekman. I know you don't really hear about the two-way contracts much, but let's start there. When exactly did that one go down? Because I consider myself a source of information, and you're the first one telling me this.
Shams Charania first reported this not that long ago, late afternoon, evening, that reports were out saying that he'd agreed to a two-way deal, but we'll get to him later on. Like, it's always fun to watch two-way players, but realistically,
with the big hitters,
a lot of those guys don't end up being big impact players or even making it to NBA contracts, so he may not. You just don't know what to expect. But to me, drafting a center and bringing in some depth at the guard position and a great shooter, I like the moves. I'm excited.
Yeah, I love one more than the other. I mean, Quinton Post, I really like that draft pick a lot. And Waters, the Warriors have been on this guy for a while. They've really liked his talent. A big shooter, 6'6", had his best year in his rookie year when he averaged 8 points back in, 21, 22, I believe. Yeah, when he was 24 years of age. Played a career best 18 minutes that season. Obviously, that was a really, really bad Oklahoma City Thunder team. As the Thunder got better, his minutes were diminished just a little bit. Last year, 38 games, 7 minutes per game, just over 3.5 points per game. I don't think the Warriors are going to expect him to step in and potentially replace Klay Thompson, but he had some depth on the wing, and you would imagine that he will take up a roster spot this upcoming season.
So let me walk you through my thought process, because initially that news broke like late morning, at least Pacific time. I know you're on Eastern time out at a work conference, but I was not happy to see that the Golden State Warriors had traded away the 52nd overall pick for another guard. This is already a guard-heavy roster. My only thought on that being a positive would be if they're going to trade someone away or multiple pieces away, and that there's other things happening behind the scenes to where Waters then would be needed as a depth piece. Because as it stands, yes, if Klay Thompson moves on, I think you need to add 3-point shooting, but it's just like you look up and down the roster and it's like guard, and now you've got the youngsters with Pajemski. Moody can even slot in at the 2 spot. You got Chris Paul still on the books as of this point. So I think, to me, signing someone like that was like, okay, then moves better be coming, because we need more depth in the front court, not the back court. And then I also had so many of these prospects that I was excited about. And I want to say something because a lot of people were coming at me a little bit on social media because I said on Twitter, I did not love this pick. And it was pretty 50-50, or I didn't love the trade. And the reason why is that I liked a lot of the guys. I've been diving into the analysis of who might be available at 52nd. And so many people like, this is a weak draft class. This is a weak draft class. Why would you want to bring someone in that more than likely isn't going to make it in the NBA, who's probably going to be trash when you have a proven shooter? And I say proven shooter in quotations because Lindy Waters shot 35% and then 36% from beyond the arc his first 2 seasons. Better numbers, but a lot smaller in terms of volume in his third NBA season. So it's like, okay, what are we really getting in terms of him shooting 40% this past year? But it was only about 1 made 3 per game. And so many people are saying that. And I just want to say it's flat out wrong. I've been talking to a number of draft analysts who said there is good depth in this current draft class. The reason why it's being called weak is because there's not as much star power and it's not as top heavy as some draft classes you've seen in the past, or you go back to last year with Scoot Henderson and Victor Wembanyama and the players you're talking about potentially being NBA stars, but that doesn't mean there's not quality players around the 50s. Harrison Ingram was almost available. I mean, he fell, he wasn't, but and I think the Warriors ended up getting a quality player at the 52nd pick with the 52nd pick, which is the direction that this went. So that's why I was upset, because I still think you can bring in someone who could be a great role player even if it's not a superstar, and you can add to size. And that's exactly what they did. And I'm so happy. But initially I was not happy with the Waters move. Now that things ended up turning around, in Mike Dunleavy we trust, I guess is what I should be saying. But initially I wasn't happy about the move. Now I'm okay with it. What I will say is I feel like you need to move someone out of the backcourt. Like what playing time is he going to take away? Also, you hope that since Gary Payton II's back next year, if he's not traded again, all of this is if these guys aren't traded, you hope Gary Payton II is back and healthy. So it's like there's another guard in the mix alongside the names that I just mentioned. And Steph, if Clay's back, and Chris Paul. And now we know that there's no way all of these guys come back. I say that, and I really hope that's not the case. But if it is, then suddenly you're way too guard heavy. But do you think that there's a move coming? Like, is that what this signals to you?
Well, according to the Ringer's Logan Murdoch, the Warriors are, quote unquote, aggressively shopping Andrew Wiggins in trade talks. I think that makes a lot of sense. If they're not going to bring Clay back, and if Andrew Wiggins is going to leave as well, and then if they end up cutting Chris Paul or doing something with Chris Paul. Let's see.
They could trade him too. I just don't know if there's a market
for
him.
His $30 million salary guarantees Friday, as we know. Dunleavy said it's possible that both sides agree to push it back, giving them a little more time to examine options. So if Paul and Thompson depart, you shed $73 million that you can work with. Then you can also, throw Andrew Wiggins in some package deals and completely retool the roster. Because that's the biggest question right now. It's like, how are they going to make are they going to fit the square peg into the round hole?
Yeah.
How are they going to do it with no money? So that's the big things that I'm looking at. What's going to go down with Chris Paul? What's going to happen with Klay Thompson? I've just kind of assumed at this point that Andrew Wiggins is on his way out if they can find a trade partner. I just think everything that's gone down with Wiggins the last couple of years, whether, it's his fault or not, with everything that's going down, it seems like it's been distracting. He hasn't played his best basketball, and the fit hasn't been a match made in heaven like it was in 21-22 when the Warriors won the NBA championship. So my expectation that he's kind of out the door. I do think that Quinton Post draft pick was excellent. I feel like Steph has never, I'm trying to think, like, in my mind, has he had a stretch big to play with? I mean, David West could step out. He could hit some jumpers, but he's nothing like Quinton Post. When you're talking about the centers that have been with Curry, we're talking Bogut and Kevon Looney.
More traditional. They've all been traditional. And Quinton Post is not that. He's a guy who steps out and hits 43% of his threes. I mean, let's just run through the criteria right now on the 7-footer from Boston College. First of all, I got to preface this by saying I have not seen Boston College play basketball in a live game since I think Jared Dudley and Craig Smith were there. Like, it has been a long time.
So it's not like I was watching games of this guy, nor is really any of the audience. I mean, you're not watching Boston College basketball unless you like ESPNU. With that being said, I did watch a lot of tape, about 7 minutes of tape on this guy. I really like Quinton Post. I love the pick at 52. He's 24 years of age. That's exactly what the Warriors were looking for, was someone that could step in, provide some maturity, and really not be a developmental piece, be someone that you could plug and play. Age-wise, he has that. You're also looking at maybe someone that's flourishing. Averaged 17 points a game last season, by far his best year for Boston College. He was the most improved player in the ACC. I like players that are starting to, hit their stride at the right moment and maybe some late blossoming stars. In addition to that, great free throw shooter, really good pick and pop percentage. Dunleavy said, quote, "You want players who can do more than one thing. We think he rebounds, defends at a level at the rim that's NBA acceptable, and is a good passer." I mean, he just checks a lot of boxes for the Warriors. A 24-year-old from Amsterdam is considered a very good defender, to the point where he was all ACC defender. And I love a late bloomer. I'm so intrigued. Moves well from the tape that I watched. Doesn't seem like he's slow for his size. I'm just stunned that he went 52. I know that he may not play in the summer league because he's dealing with some offseason injuries, but what am I missing? How does he slide to 52? 7 feet with 17 points and 8 rebounds per game last season. And when you're the ACC's most improved player, that means that maybe you are, a late bloomer. Sometimes 7-footers take some time to put the pieces together. And from everything I watched, there's no reason not to be excited with this guy. I think it's an incredible pick at 52.
Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. There's roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and to bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. All right, so if you want to dive into the post conversation, we can. We started out on Waters. We're going all over the place here on today's show, but I love the selection. All of the things that you pointed out, some of the different attributes. The big thing is his ability to shoot the 3 ball. Quinton Post at 7 foot has such a high shot pocket. He's so difficult to contest his shot. He gets the ball out there beyond the arc, and anyone trying to rush out and close him out has no chance. He keeps the ball very high, in addition
Quick trigger, yeah.
Foot tall. And that is something that's going to make him so difficult to defend out there. And you talk about another 7-footer who can hit the 3 is Lauri Markkanen, who's someone that a number of fans have been calling for the Warriors to bring in. Different player. Post doesn't entirely give me shades of Lauri Markkanen, but I'm just saying, when you've got a 7-footer who's got so much length as well in terms of a wingspan and can step out and shoot the 3, it's virtually impossible to stop, because how do you close a guy out there? And then if you do go to close him out, you're opening up space inside. So I think everything about that you just love. It'll be interesting to see how they work him in with this rotation, because right now you also have a very talented young center in Trayce Jackson-Davis. And to me, that's where a lot of people have been saying they think Post has 3-and-D potential because of how he can hit the 3 ball. And he is pretty mobile in terms of being able to get outside. Solid defender. I like the way he works in the pick and roll. That's something that stood out to me when watching his tape. But it'll be very interesting to see how the actual rotation works out and what his fit is, because you've got Trayce Jackson-Davis. We know the Warriors are bringing back Kevon Looney on $8 million at this point, assuming, again, he doesn't get moved in a trade, because we do know the Warriors are still actively shopping players around. I don't know I don't know what teams would be interested in Loon necessarily. And I know the Warriors like to keep him around from a veteran presence and locker room side. But I'm curious to see exactly what that rotation looks like, because now you've got two young bigs in the front court, and Trace Jackson-Davis and Quinton Post. You've got Draymond Green, who can play an undersized 5, really better at the 4, in my opinion, except for certain lineups where you want to really push the pace and, I don't know, just try to work different ways. So it'll be interesting to me to see what kind of role he's able to carve out. Do you have any vision for Quinton Post in the immediate future in the Warriors?
I mean, he's 24 years old. He better have an
He's
immediate
older.
future. Why the hell did you draft him? I mean, he's 24. That's probably part of the reason why he slipped down the draft board. Age, it hurts you in the draft. I mean,
Yeah.
24? How the heck are you in college at 24? But with all the COVID rules and everything and transfers, I know he started his career at give it to me. Where did he start his career at? Look it up for me while I talk some more about Quinton Post.
Mississippi. I want to say it was Mississippi State. I think it was Mississippi State before Boston. Yeah, Boston College.
He started in Starkville. So I would hope that the plan is to find a way to get him into the rotation this season. But the more names you bring up, it does make me wonder. You talk Looney, you talk Draymond, Trace Jackson-Davis, and now Post. Post spaces the floor, but could you realistically play him on the floor at the same time as a Kevon Looney or a Trace Jackson-Davis? I don't know if that makes much sense. I mean, I never really loved the whole Twin Towers concept. It's worked a little for Minnesota. Aside from that, we haven't seen it much in the NBA as of late. But I don't know. Watching the videos, it does seem like he could play that 4 position at 7 feet tall. He could put the ball on the deck a little bit from what I've seen. Soft hands, can go up and get rebounds. It just makes me wonder. I feel like I'm missing something. He has to have a major flaw. I posted and was asking some Boston College fans on Twitter, like, what am I missing here? Everything seems too good to be true. Why was this guy on the table? And the only response that I got was from a radio host down in North Carolina who covers ACC basketball extensively, Josh Graham. You had him on the show. And he basically said, you guys are going to love Post. He's awesome. So we'll see. I would imagine that if that's the case, Dunleavy loves him. Why wouldn't he carve out a role? But then that would mean that Looney's going somewhere, right? Because Trace Jackson-Davis isn't going anywhere, and you're not going to keep that many bigs on the roster, I wouldn't think. But I don't know. Help me out.
It's interesting because a couple players that Post has been compared to is, for example, Al Horford. Brooke Lopez is another player who a lot of the scouts are saying they feel like his game gives shades of, which I could see, but those are players who are centers. And Trace Jackson-Davis is clearly a center. So you're talking about two very young players around the same age, because Trace Jackson-Davis was also an older player who was drafted, at least older in terms of draft class. So you're looking at two guys who are 23, 24 years old. And then you also haven't mentioned the name Jonathan Kuminga, who's played at the 4 for the Warriors. I actually like Kuminga at the 3, but he really would have to work on developing the deep shot, because Kuminga has shot right around like 33 to 35% from beyond the arc throughout his young NBA career. To be a 3-and-D type of player, to me, and to really play that wing position, you've got to get that up. So you also look at, how do you fit Jonathan Kuminga into that mix? Is he a 4, or are you going to try to slot him in at the 3? Especially as this team is shopping around Andrew Wiggins, I think it's worth a conversation. Is Jonathan Kuminga going to do a better job shooting the 3 ball? How much is that going to develop? Can he get those numbers up? To me, is a big question. Would you put Jonathan Kuminga at the 3, or would you throw him in the mix of that front court where we're looking at now, if you add in Kuminga, 5 guys?
I think a lot has to do with how Kuminga positions himself this offseason, and really if they have any plans with Quinton Post. I mean, I know it's really rare for a second rounder to come in and do anything out of the gate. Although Trace Jackson-Davis, you saw
I was going to say Trace Jackson-Davis 57th, although there reportedly was some, I don't know, conversations where his agent was able to, specifically make sure he was available for the Warriors. They were selling him on having a position right away and being able to be in the rotation right away. But still, he was definitely a second rounder, mid to late second rounder. And look, I like this game.
If Kuminga has those perimeter skills and plays the 3, now you can completely shoot down this in the chat, or the comments can say this is the dumbest take I've ever heard. But if Kuminga can play the 3, And at the 4, you get Post in there, and then, whether it's Looney or Trace Jackson Davis at the 5, you add in a ton of size. I mean, based on the scouting reports on Post, he can play that position. Hit over a 3.5 per game last year, 80% free throw shooter, has shown ability to really attack the basket off the dribble, and has a nice little nifty turnaround hook shot. Real good form, improved every season in college basketball, was there for 5 years total. Just a late blooming Dutch center. So everyone I've heard has called him a center, and he's not going to be playing the 4.
I
But I mean,
know that, but that's what
the
I'm
biggest
saying.
question.
Everyone's
Like,
calling him a center.
his weaknesses right now, obviously, are age. He's 24. That limits his potential. Doesn't have much leaping ability. He's not someone that's going to play above the rim much. You're not going to see high flying dunks from this guy. He's a completely different type of player, the pick and pop, and someone that if he develops a pretty good pump fake, could get some people up in the air and step into his mid range, because he can knock down shots. He has a 27-inch max vertical. That's, I think, lower than you and I, Kylan. So his lack of verticality will make it really tough for him to create offense in the paint, which is why I say maybe he's not a 5. Maybe they work him into
Trace
a big,
Jackson
big
Davis
4.
has the verticality, and then Jonathan Kuminga is not a 5, but like you do also have players who can vertically space the floor already on this roster. So like I don't mind that.
So if you play those 3 together, I mean, he's not going to be a great defender in space. You're going to have to hide him there. I'm loving the weakness on his scouting report. It says his game's probably more suited for the 1980s than 2020s. Not a good athlete, just lacking explosiveness. But the late development suggests that his success may have been due more to playing against younger competition than actually, being someone that really, really stepped up his game and really, developed that quickly.
I watched his tape, and I don't think the athleticism was that bad. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't. You don't watch him and think he's jumping off the screen with a high vert, but still, it's not like he's getting crushed defensively. Like I watched someone like a Kevon Looney, and I'm like, man, the athleticism is really, really apparent. Of
First
course,
team All-CC defense.
This is a different level. What?
First team All-ACC defense.
Right. No, I was going to say, you watch him and he defends well. And another thing is he can post guys up. I know we've been talking a lot about the perimeter shooting, but he does still have some post moves. You pointed out, can he knock down mid-range shots? And he can defend well enough. I mean, of course, it's going to be different to see if all that can translate to the NBA level. But I think, like I said, if you got vertical threats in Jonathan Kuminga and Trace Jackson Davis, you're maybe okay with that. You need someone who has a different skill set. You don't want them all to be the same. And he's a 7-footer who can hit the 3 ball,
Got a different role.
So
something we've never seen with Steph Curry.
Concerned.
Yeah. Something we've never seen with Steph Curry, a big that's been able to step out and hit the 3-pointer. We didn't even throw in Draymond's name into this mix. So, yeah, you could get crafty with it if he is indeed NBA ready. From everything I've heard, people believe that he's going to be able to contribute, that he's going to carve a spot out on this roster. But like I said, there was an injury in the offseason. The exact injury was, give me about 10 seconds, a minor leg injury that he suffered in pre-draft workouts. So
I'm not
will he
worried
play
about
in the summer league? Yeah, we'll see. But the Warriors were impressed with his workout in San Francisco. And obviously a stretch big has been something they've looked at for a long time. I wouldn't call Boogie Cousins a stretch big by any means. Like, I don't think the Warriors – I'm trying to picture all the bigs over the last decade and a half in my head that have played for Golden State. And it was like, who has this similar skill set? And I can't think of anyone off the top of my head that was 7 feet at least.
No, that's because there hasn't been a 7-footer. So you're right on there.
I'm going to keep thinking.
Man, NBA season can't come soon enough. Do still have a couple months though. And over the summer, you can watch baseball, you can watch the WNBA, the Olympics right around the corner. And all those summertime sports are a lot more fun when you bet on them through FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet on everything, like who's going to hit one out of the park, how many points you think Caitlin Clark's going to score, or maybe how many rebounds you think Angel Reese is going to bring in. Or, for example, if you're looking for a play right now, the Giants starting a series against the Dodgers. They're favorites at -194. Maybe you feel confident in the Giants. They do have Logan Webb starting on the bump, one of their better pitchers. Dodgers, though, have been really good all season while the Giants have struggled. So, maybe you want to put a bet on that if you are a baseball fan. Either way, if you want to make watching any sport more fun, the best way to do it is to go to fanduel.com/locked on and add a big win to your summer bucket list. Remember, $200 in bonus bets possible. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. A lot to be excited about when it comes to this draft pick. A 7-footer who can knock down the 3 ball, also has a post-up game, was one of the most improved players, actually was named the most improved player in the ACC out of Boston College and Quinton Post. I do want to touch on Lindy Waters real quick because we didn't get too much into him off the top. I was saying that assuming some of the other backcourt pieces the Warriors already have move on, I like the move. I'm okay with the move. But looking back at what he did at Oklahoma City, just didn't have a ton of run. This last year in another team that was very backcourt heavy, only averaged 7 minutes per game, where you saw that 3.6 points per game, was able to shoot over 40% from 3, but only averaged 1 3 per game. So you don't necessarily have a big body of work in terms of what he did with the Thunder. However, watching his G League tape, I liked everything I saw from Waters. If you go on and look up the highlights, folks, real nice touch. Not just beyond the arc, also could hit some little runners, floaters in the lane, good off the dribble generally. So I liked what I saw. Will it translate to being a role player for the Warriors? That's still a question mark to me. 3 years in the NBA and really hadn't carved out a consistent role across those 3 seasons. But when you watch the tape, when he is in the game, it looks like he's got a great feel for the game, really good shooter. And so I think it makes sense given the fact that you expect someone like a Klay Thompson or one of the other backcourt pieces to be on the move. When you watch him or what you know from his skill set, what do you think? What do you make of it?
He's a shooter.
He's a shooter. Shoot. We like that.
They brought him in as a shooting specialist, and they brought him in to add some depth at the wing position. I think that's pretty much what you'd expect of the guy. I mean, the numbers say at this point that Lindy Waters probably is who he is. He's 26 years of age and very close to 27. He'll be 27 in the next month. You don't expect someone that's 27 years old and has started 1 game in his career over the course of 104 games to be someone that you're banking on. So Lindy Waters, at the end of the day, he's a body that can knock down some shots. That's why when you brought him up at the very beginning, I said, no, I want to talk about post because I believe in post game. Now, that can change in a hurry. I mean, at the end of the day, what's faith? Faith is you believe in something you really haven't seen yet. I haven't seen him live. I've watched a bunch of tape of him, and I like what I've seen. As for Lindy Waters, I think he's someone that can knock down some shots, and we'll hear his name here and there. Maybe on the team at some points in the season, maybe down in the G League at other points. That's kind of what I think of him as a player. But the Warriors have liked him for a long time. And, maybe he does turn into something. I mean, there was some depth with Oklahoma City to where a lot of times you need a fresh start, and that's all it takes. He averaged 8 points in his rookie year.
Okay, one thing I do want to touch on is the money situation has come up. I'm not an expert on all of the salary cap issues by any means, but there is something that folks at home should know because this was a little bit of a complicated process. The Warriors traded away the 52nd overall pick to Oklahoma City, got Lindy Waters III in exchange for draft rights. The Warriors were able to reacquire that pick and select forward center Quinton Post out of Boston College. But they agreed in principle to reacquire the draft rights to Post from the Portland Trail Blazers, who got that via Oklahoma City in a trade that has not yet been finalized, at least as of the last release that I received from the Golden State Warriors just about 2 hours ago. Of course, you expect everything is done by the books and should be finalized in the next day or two. But that does mean that there is something to be paid because Golden State sent out cash to acquire the pick back. That's how this was able to take place. The $189 million second apron is triggered, $189.7 million to be exact. The Warriors cannot exceed that amount with their salaries. So it just means there is a cap on how much the Warriors could spend. That is initiated because of them buying back this pick that they initially traded away to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Digging deeper than that is something we'll do in our upcoming episodes here on Locked On Warriors. Some fans frustrated now they can't spend over that amount. However, everything I've been told is that the Warriors weren't trying to spend over that amount anyway. They have been trying to stay under the luxury tax threshold and been trying to dial it in with all of these salaries and all of the money that's flying everywhere, which is a big reason why they have to offload the $30 million owed to Chris Paul, whether it be via trade, whether they cut him, whatever. There's just not a lot of room and there's not a lot of money to be spent. So to me, it looks like making a trade is going to be their best option, but they're going to have to send a lot out the door just by dollar amount in order to bring in a star, a secondary scorer, a Paul George type, who reportedly the Warriors want to offer 4 years to, which we're going to have to do a separate episode about that. But so just so folks are aware, that's the situation with the dollars amount. We didn't even have time, Chuck, to get to the two-way player who I really like out of Virginia, who reportedly
Beekman. Yeah, he was
signed
good.
by the Warriors, Reese Beekman. But we're going to have to get to that. We're going to have another episode coming up here on Friday. So Chuck, thanks for joining us. Like I said, we ran out of time so quickly because there was a lot to talk about. A busy day for the Golden State Warriors. Just take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath. There's still a lot more to come. Buckle in, folks. I feel like moves are coming before we wrap. Don't you think, Chuck?
In Quinton Post, we trust. In Quinton Post, we trust. And there's definitely moves coming. I mean, There's
got to be.
Chris Paul is going to be a domino that's going to have to drop very quickly because there's just no way that he's playing for Golden State next season. I would not imagine. And then Andrew Wiggins.
I'm going to be sad if Moody's on his way out, man. Wiggins, I'm okay with. Moody, I'm going to be sad about.
Yeah, we'll see. I would think if I had to guess, Wiggins, Clay, Paul, 2 of those 3 are gone. Which 2 it'll be, I don't know. Could it be all 3? That's my big question this offseason. And quite frankly, we'll know in the next week. So
there you have it. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Chuck, thanks again. Be well. Get some sleep. We're going to be breaking down much more, all things Dubs, all things off season in the coming days. Have a great night. Have a great day. Have a great morning, wherever and whenever you're listening. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.